Hey there, everyone. I am doing something different tonight, and that we're just going to talk for like 5-10 minutes, and then I'll let you go. First of all, I appreciate everyone that has been following along. I'm about a month in now, 30 YouTube subscribers, big day, and just a lot of wonderful compliments and conversations happening. So I appreciate all of that. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about something that's kind of arisen in my journey through cloud products. Something that I was aware of, or aware that maybe I wasn't even aware that it existed. Really, I just this question has really just sprung up. And so we're just going to start with it. I talked last night about, I posted about, the whole governance of on-prem versus cloud. And maybe I'll do a video on that too, but I have a lot of questions about that, about how organizations attack that and how they feel about it. But what today we're going to talk about is compute in the cloud, which is the other, is the other part of that. Right. So goodness, why is my oh boy. Sorry, I was having a hard time changing the size of my face. Okay. One of the things that I keep coming up with on the compute with the cloud, a question about compute in the cloud, right? So some of the tools I'm looking at, I'm finding that there are limitations in the way things are done on the cloud versus on desktop. This isn't a specific Alteryx cloud thing, so I don't necessarily want to focus on that. But what I want to talk about is like how we as users have to shift the way we think as we move to the cloud, and then how I'm curious how organizations are managing this today, if they are managing it, or if it's like this is going to be something that will explode as we move into tools, into cloud analytics tools. Yeah, and that's essentially this. How do we approach the compute costs that come with moving from on-prem systems to the cloud? So what I want to do with this is like have this is my question. And then like, as I kind of work through this in my head, I'm going to continue to share, and I'm going to kind of make steps out of this. I think that's my thought for now anyway. But my thought, let's just talk about compute versus on-prem, and then thoughts will go wild. Currently, the way that compute works on-prem, we're going to actually just use Alteryx as an example because it's what I know best. So we're going to talk about it. So I have a Designer on my machine, and then my compute power is limited to the power of my machine. So as a user, I've just thrown whatever I could at it because I know my machine's not going to crash, and I'm not really concerned about runtime, especially through dev, because I understand as I'm building out how long things will take. And then I will build processes around like, okay, I actually don't need the first half of this workflow anymore. I just need, there's caching options, things like that. So there's ways to make the build process happen more efficiently. And then when you have your Alteryx server, a lot of people actually run into this issue where they've got way too many jobs running. It hasn't been governed well. So it's just the wild, wild west up there, and they're having performance issues. And I see that fairly often. But that compute, all of that compute is tied to licensing and storage. Sorry, when I say storage, I think more of like the cloud data warehouse aspect of it. But server compute for Alteryx is tied to cores, and there's licensing costs for that. And then you actually have to own the physical machine, or if you're launching it in a cloud environment, you have to pay for virtual cores, and that's its own things. But you are allocated those machines, and then it's not, there is no like cost to use that space. You just pay more for the space, and then you get unlimited usage on that. So that's kind of how it works now. Now, when we move into the cloud, it seems from what I have been able to derive, where most of the tools in this space, is that cost is associated with compute. So more cost or more compute equals more cost. We see it in things like Snowflake. They sell credits ahead of time, and their goal is to get you as many of those credits as they can, because that's how they do that's their business model. And a lot of people love it, and they, because the value of that, of course, is all the things that are the value of the cloud. I don't have to worry about infrastructure. I don't have to worry about security in the same way. I still have to worry about security, but a lot of that's handled by them. So there's like a lot of that pressure is removed from the IT organization into, it is a value of the software as a service. But when we talk about, like, let's say again, moving something like Alteryx, my whole dev learning cycle has been, again, throw as much of my desktop compute at it, because I don't care as I'm developing out, because it's not affecting other things. It's just my machine. All of my compute is in my bubble. But now when I'm on a machine and I'm building things, or scheduling things or whatever, now my compute affects the other users. Or if this compute sits on top of something like Snowflake, it affects costs on Snowflake, especially with, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the future, the way Alteryx, there's two ways that it does its, it leverages its compute. So now we have to think about that, and more that's to come. I can't really talk about some of those things, but we as users are going to have to start thinking about, as we're developing things, where that goes, where the cost associated. Because, for example, if I'm doing something that sits on top of Snowflake and I don't know much about how Snowflake runs, or I'm a fairly new user and I just say select star from giant table, the compute cost could go through the roof on something like that. And how do we make users aware, and how do we stop them from doing that? So that, in my head, what I'm thinking is going to happen is there's going to be like a little bit longer of like a training development cycle on the front end for this, because it's like not necessarily something we're going to be able to throw everybody into. There is a little bit of learning curve, because there are now costs associated with select star from whatever. So that is, we're shifting throw all of my machines compute at a problem to how do I figure this out and figure the problem out and then efficiently run it during dev. And then, so I mentioned earlier how there's an increase in efficiency with cloud, because I don't have to worry about infrastructure. And then the security that is available because of the cloud, like is that offsetting the new price? So is there like a lack of concern from organizations, or not lack of concern? Is that concern, is the risk mitigation and what we own, is the fact that we're kind of like moving away from some of those concerns, does that offset the prices? Are generally organizations okay with that? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So what I've heard is that organizations go one of three ways. Either they're super efficient in their cloud resources, so it's like use as little as possible, do things on-prem, then move into cloud. Especially, I think probably this makes a lot of sense right now, is like we're moving there. It's like I've already got these resources on-prem. Maybe in like 5 to 10 years, when it comes, or I don't know, 2 to 3 to 5, whatever the timeline is for upcycle or upgrading these machines and these processes. Like if at that point it's like, okay, I can either invest in new servers or I could just move all the way to the cloud. Anyway, this super efficient use of cloud resources makes a lot of sense. Again, transitioning over. Now I hear there's also like a mix. Oh, let's just talk about the other side of the spectrum. So the other side of the spectrum is like, nope, we're all on a cloud. We understand the costs. We understand this. We want to go full into it. And this is just what I've heard. I don't know the details of that specifically. Curious how that is managed. This might be one of those things where you hear it or you see it in like a webinar and you're like, oh, everything sounds great, but really there's it's like the duck, right? The duck looks good, but there's legs treading like crazy underwater to make sure it looks good. So I'm unsure of how that's happening. And then I find there's also this middle between that. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out over this journey again is like how do we approach this? How do we train up users at the beginning to understand that this is a problem now? Is this problem going to keep users out of platforms because now there's just all sorts of overhead we kind of have to think about? What's the best plan of attack on that? So hoping that we can figure that out together. If anybody has any comments or questions on this or thoughts on this, please leave something in the comments. I want to talk about it, or message me, or find me on LinkedIn, Tracy Marks. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to figure it out, and I'd love to take this. Also, if anybody wants to ever get on and talk about anything, I'm more than happy to make this like a back and forth session. So let's all learn this together. Let's figure this out, and let's have fun doing it.